This is the new Apple TV 4K. It costs $180. Oh, no, oops. I had the wrong one. One second. This is the new Apple, wait, no, I had it right the first time. Whatever. This is the new Apple TV 4K. It costs $180, which is a lot when compared to the competition. And almost any recent TV can basically do what the Apple TV does on its own. So is there even any reason to buy the Apple TV 4K? Let's talk about what's new with the Apple TV 4K hardware. There's a new remote, a faster processor, Wi-Fi 6, HDMI 2.1, which means high frame rate HDR, and Thread support. Besides the remote, which I'll come back to, just looking at the box itself, there's not a whole lot different. Even day-to-day usage for me doesn't really seem like anything has changed. I never really felt like the old Apple TV 4K was slow. I have my Apple TVs wired, so Wi-Fi 6 doesn't matter, and my TV doesn't support HDMI 2.1, so that won't do anything for me either. That obviously doesn't mean Apple shouldn't add new features. Apple has to keep up with current technology, and these things may make more of a difference in the future. I guess what I'm taking forever to say is right now, today, it might not be worth upgrading for the hardware changes alone. It's probably a better idea to be looking into this if you want to add an Apple TV 4K to your setup and not replace a working one. Then there's the remote, which is completely new. I never really hated the other Apple TV remote, but I can definitely understand why many people do. On the old remote, there was a touchpad that you could use to pause what you're watching and then swipe through if you wanted to jump around. It worked really great for things like skipping through commercials, but it made it difficult to navigate around the interface. The new remote brings a new, larger design which is much nicer to hold compared to the old one. I wouldn't necessarily say it's comfortable to hold, but it's not bad. It still has a touch surface, but it's now combined into the ClickPad. You're supposed to be able to pause and then rotate your thumb around the ClickPad like an iPod to get where you want to be. This is maybe a little slower because you have to give it a second to recognize this new gesture, but it's still good when it works. Other than that, there's now a mute and a power button. Otherwise, there's still a Siri button, back button, which used to be labeled menu, home, play, pause, and volume. I think there's no question this is a better remote. It's just easier to pick up and use. Clicking a button and knowing what the click is actually going to do is much better than swiping and not knowing where you'll end up. My biggest issue though with the remote is more about the software than anything. Not all the apps support the new swipe gesture as well as the built-in apps do. It's really frustrating because the experience can vary depending on whatever app you're in. I think YouTube and YouTube TV may be the worst at this, but this remote is no question better than the old one. And you can buy it to use with your old Apple TV 4K and even the non-4K one. It's just not going to work with the really old one. Once you get the Apple TV set up, you're basically presented with two different home screens. There's the Grid of Apps home screen and the TV app home screen. The TV app home screen is default, I believe, and in this view, Apple tries to recommend content to you and also show you what you've been watching so you can pick up where you left off. This could be really nice, but not all apps are shown here, mainly Netflix, which means you'll have to click home again to see the app grid, and then you can navigate to the Netflix app. Because of this, I just turn off the setting to use the TV app as the home screen. I think Apple should really just figure out a way to combine these home screens into one. There's no reason they couldn't put an app section in the TV app. One benefit with the Apple TV is there really aren't many ads. You still get some of Apple pushing their stuff, but there's nothing like on the other streaming boxes. This goes for the remote as well. Those Netflix or Hulu buttons are basically ads on the remotes. We're constantly changing the services that we subscribe to based on what we want to watch, so those buttons have never been good for me. So pretty much everything that we've gone over so far doesn't really separate the Apple TV 4K from the competition. So what does? This is where the Apple ecosystem takes over. This is where Apple gets you, because if you even use just a few other Apple products or services, you probably get some added benefits from owning an Apple TV. You'll get AirPlay, something called SharePlay later this year, HomeKit so you can control smart home devices. Also, it supports Thread, which means your Apple TV can be the hub for your Thread devices. I made a video about that, so I'll link to that if you want to check it out. Also, you can play your iTunes purchases like movies or TV shows, and also Apple Music. And also you can access services like Apple Fitness Plus or Apple Arcade for gaming. You can even use your HomePods as the speaker for your TV if you're into that. I think the biggest one for me is being able to use my AirPods with the Apple TV 4K. It's not every day, but it's so convenient when I want to use it just to put my AirPods in and pick them from the audio menu. I think any of these could be a big factor in whether or not the Apple TV is a good buy for you. The price is really the worst part about the Apple TV. I don't think it's completely fair to compare it to the Chromecast or Fire Stick, for example, because the Apple TV has an Ethernet port and those ones in stick form don't, which is worth something. But it's not worth the actual difference in price for these products. For me, I like to use my HomePods as my TV speaker. I like using my AirPods when I don't want to make noise, and I like accessing my HomeKit devices from my TV. So I can definitely recommend buying the Apple TV 4K. It works great as a streaming box. It checks all the boxes, supports all the current audio and video formats, and it has all of the big streaming apps in the App Store. But if you're going to spend the money, I really think it needs to check one of those ecosystem boxes to really make sense over the competition. Thanks for watching.